Hi, my name is Dolores and I flew all the way from the Philippines to work here in England, in Whitby to be exact, that seaside town in Yorkshire. It's the year 1982 and it's not uncommon for us Filipinos to leave our motherland in search for better opportunities here abroad. Especially, now that our country's economy is struggling to bounce back from the aftermath of the martial law. A mere, common folk like me who has lived in poverty her whole life would surely not survive longer in the Philippines. But, I believe, that today is the day that I will change my destiny. Hi. You must be Dolores. Welcome, kababayan. I'm Maria. I'm also a domestic worker here. Our employer, Mr. Andrew, is waiting for you inside. Come on in, said the woman who greeted me on the door. I, feeling nervous at my first day of work, timidly went inside our employer's home. The place looked decent. It wasn't as big as a mansion, but it was still bigger and more spacious compared to our home back in the Philippines. One thing I noticed though is that the furnitures inside the house all look like antique. Fascinating, I thought to myself.
Welcome. You must be our new maid. I'm Andrew, the owner of this house and your employer. And what was your name again?
Good day, sir. My name is Dolores.
Welcome, Dolores. I see you've already met Maria. She has been working here for over 6 months now. By the way, it's nice meeting you, but unfortunately I have to hurry. I have some important business to attend to right now, so I trust that Maria will take care of you and teach you the ways of working in this house. Okay, Maria?
Yes, sir. Maria said. And just like that, my first day of work here abroad has begun. Maria was very nice. She said she was from Copies and that she's really happy to finally have someone to work with after all those months of service. And most importantly, she said she was even more happier to have me, a fellow Filipina, to work with. She said she never felt closer to home since she has never went back to the Philippines ever since she got here. Time went by and soon it was almost dinner time. I watched Maria prepare our meals. She told me to observe carefully because Mr. Andrew prefers to have his meals be prepared in a certain way. I noticed that she had no other ingredients except for fresh raw meat. She said Mr. Andrew was on this high-protein, raw meat diet, and any other type of food, she said, would cause him severe discomfort. I found this piece of information very odd, but she reassured me that Mr. Andrew just has this rare medical condition since birth and that he said fresh raw meat has more nutrients than the cooked ones. Maria also added that Mr. Andrew owns a meat shop and therefore he provides the supply of meat in this house and that these supplies were always guaranteed fresh. It didn't take long for Maria to finish preparing the meals. After setting the table, Maria and I went to our room. There, we ate our food as we were not allowed to eat in the dining room or anywhere near Mr. Andrew. Maria said it's a common practice with employers and their maids here abroad. She also said that we were already lucky that we're allowed to eat while our employer is away. And that even if when he's home, we still get to eat the same time as his. Other overseas Filipino workers here, she added, don't get as lucky as we do, as most of them are treated badly. Locked up in their rooms and only fed with scraps. Forced to work hard but were always treated like trash by their employers. For our dinner, Maria got us a half slice of bread, 2 fried eggs, and a bowl of meat. The same as those kind of meat she prepared for Mr. Andrew, but instead being raw, ours were half-cooked. We shared the meal, but somehow, I couldn't stop glancing at the bowl of meat. I asked Maria why are we even having that. I thought it was only for Mr. Andrew. Maria said that Mr. Andrew insists that we must also eat them for their nutrients. I almost gagged at the thought of me eating that dish because we Filipinos are used to eating fully cooked meat. But Maria just chuckled and told me that she also had the same reaction when she was first introduced to this kind of meal. You'll grow to love it. Just take one bite at a time. Think of it as being cooked medium rare, she said. I politely declined and told her maybe I'll just try it next time. We continued eating our meal, then went to bed early that night. The next morning, we continued to do our work, keeping the entire house clean and the yards well tended. By this time, Mr. Andrew was already home. However, he seemed quite different. He looked pale and sick. And he just kept himself locked up in his room. Only Maria was allowed to go inside and take care of him. I asked Maria what happened to Mr. Andrew. She just said that Mr. Andrew was just exhausted from work and that he'll just gain back his strength later once he had his meal. Maria and I continued to do our work. I was so focused at my job that I didn't notice time was slipping fast. It was already time for lunch and soon I found myself again inside our room. Maria wasn't able to prepare a decent meal for us because she was busy with her tasks and with taking care of Mr. Andrew. All that was there for us was a plate of what seems to be half-cooked liver. I was so stunned at the sight of such meal that it took me a while to move from where I stood and sit beside Maria. I looked at her. She was calmly eating the liver. Since I didn't want to disrespect Maria or make it seem like I'm being finicky, I eventually mustered up the courage to get a piece and take a bite. The half-cooked liver was soft, juicy, and tastes a little bitter. I chewed it a bit more than I forced myself to swallow it. I immediately grabbed a glass of water and drank like my whole life depended on it. I couldn't bear to eat some more of that liver, so I excused myself and told Maria that I have some more work to do in the yard. Maria kept quiet and continued eating the dish like it was nothing unusual. I went outside, then breathed, to calm myself down. The wind was steadily blowing that day. I then thought, wow. How could Maria survive eating all that for almost 6 months? Just the thought of that plate made me puke. I forced myself to work even harder that day just to forget what just happened at lunch. Then, hours went by and the sun was already setting, painting a beautiful orange glow in the sky. But something felt odd. Something close by felt eerie. I went back inside the house and saw Maria, crouched on the floor, pale and sweaty. I rushed over to her and saw that she coughed some blood. Panicking, I screamed for help. And then somewhere out of the shadows, Mr. Andrew appeared. He looked surprisingly well. He looked livelier. I told Mr. Andrew that Maria is sick and she needs to be in the hospital right now. Mr. Andrew carried Maria into his car. He said he'll take her to the hospital. I stood beside Mr. Andrew as he carefully placed Maria in the back seat. Then, in a glimpse of moment, I think I saw Mr. Andrew look pleased at Maria. I wasn't sure though if it was just my imagination, or maybe I was just so worried and stressed that my mind is playing tricks with me. Mr. Andrew closed the car door, then went on to the driver's seat. He told me not to worry and that Maria will be just fine. Then I watched the car drove away down the road. That night, Mr. Andrew and Maria did not went home. The house had never felt this cold and empty before. I could hear every creak and squeak that echoed throughout the empty halls. Creepy. I thought to myself. I had trouble sleeping that night. I kept thinking about Maria. I hope and pray she's fine. I miss her. It was already past midnight when I eventually fell asleep. Then, I woke up to the sound of Maria zipping her bags and luggages. The sun had already risen high in the sky and light was pouring in through our room's window. I frantically asked Maria how she was feeling and why was she packing her bags. Maria smiled politely and told me that the doctors had told her that she had acquired some rare and unknown disease and thus, she was no longer fit to work. And although this was such a devastating news, Maria quite seemed happy. Because for the very first time, in such a long time, she can finally come back to her hometown of Capiz in the Philippines. Mr. Andrew had already arranged her flight and paid for her plane ticket. He was now waiting for her outside so that he could send her off at the airport. I felt sad by this sudden news, but I respect Maria's decision. I helped her carry her bags inside the car and hugged her tight. We said our goodbyes and promised to visit each other's town soon in the Philippines. And just like that, I was once again left alone in the house. I did my chores as usual, and when I passed by Mr. Andrew's room, I noticed that he had forgotten to close his bedroom door. It was slightly open. I have never seen what's inside his room. Only Maria was ever allowed to go inside it. So, driven by my curiosity, instead of closing the door, I swung it open. The room was dark and the light switch didn't work. Thankfully, there was an old-looking oil lamp and some matches on a nearby table. I lit the lamp and saw how dreadful Mr. Andrews' room was. The bed and its sheets looked unkempt. Like it was left like that for months. The floor had dark stains. They looked like drops of dried paint. Then, there was his bathroom. I checked to see if its door was locked, but it wasn't. When I opened his bathroom door, an awful and foul stench greeted me. It smelled like death. I covered my nose and pulled the shower curtains aside. What I saw behind that curtain was so horrific that I nearly fainted. I will never forget that sight for the rest of my life. Behind the curtain was a bathtub. A man whom I don't recognize, rotting with eyes wide and mouth open. The look on his face gave off an expression of intense fear. Like it's as if he lost his life screaming. He was soaking on a pool of blood. His own blood. And what horrified me the most was that parts and chunks of his flesh were missing. He looked like he was attacked and bitten by several wolves. He had bruises and bite marks all over his body as well. I was frozen in fear. The fear was so intense that it had paralyzed me. I was so shocked by what I saw that I couldn't scream. It felt like my brain had shut down my body. Then, I felt something cold behind me. I slowly turned around but I saw no one.
Run.
A soft, male voice whispered to my ear. Run. That word echoed through my system and I suddenly found myself screaming and bolting out of that room. I hurriedly placed my important belongings inside my bag and rushed down the stairs, into the hallway, and out of that goddamn house. I didn't think about my other stuff that I had left there like my clothes or my toiletries. I just ran away. All I could ever think about was immediately going back home to the Philippines. It has been over a month now when I had that horrific experience and I am now back in the Philippines. Somehow, by some miracle, I was able to catch the next flight back home the next day with the help of the Philippine Embassy. That experience scarred me for life and I promised myself that I will never be working overseas ever again. Nobody here back home believed in my story. My family and neighbors all said that working far away made me crazy. But I know myself that it was all real. Then, one day, as I went to the sari-sari store to buy some eggs, I overheard my neighbors gossiping again. They were exchanging rumors about a woman, a former overseas Filipino worker, was forced to eat human meat, flesh and livers by her vampire boss, has turned into an aswang, who killed her own son, cooked him up and served him to her husband. They said her husband, a policeman, was so horrified and mad at what she did, slashed her face with a bolo knife. Now, they said, that woman is roaming around the country in search of new victims. They said her name was Maria. Maria Labu. This story is an original Jeepers Keeper tale based on an infamous Philippine urban legend. If you'd like to know more about this urban legend, we have a separate video about it, so go ahead and check it out. We also have other videos that might pique your interest. Head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe for more of this content. We would also love to hear your thoughts about this original spooky story. Comment them below and let's have a healthy discussion. And if you have stories like this that you'd like us to feature, email them at thejeeperskeeper@gmail.com. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.